YouTube, what's going on, man? It's Father Dark here bright and early on Monday morning. Hope everybody had a great weekend. If you didn't, I apologize for that. Hope the next one is better. Today's video, we're going to be talking about something that YouTube actually recommended to me because it does make recommendations sometimes based off of what you all are talking about the most, which you're the most interested in. So for the people that like to come in the comments and say, why is this a discussion? It's a discussion because people care about it. Not everything is dependent upon what you care about and what you think about. There's a collective group of people that actually do care about things. Even if I don't think that they're relevant, other people do. And it's best to talk about them sometimes. So let's talk about it. So apparently season 2 has left some people not so interested. And the numbers say that. I find it really interesting. In the last video that I did, I literally just took a screenshot of the Steam numbers, which Steam numbers are not everything, but they are a good metric to look at simply because whatever the trend is for one group of people, it's more than likely the same trend for the other group of people. And I mean by like PC players, if they're dropping off in mass numbers and groups and stuff like that, it's more than likely you could bet your bottom dollar that the same exact thing is happening as well for console. And Marvel Rivals has lost 3/4 of its player base. So if they had 600,000 people, they actually only have like at peak a little over 100,000 people on Steam. And like I said, you could see that trend is more than likely probably happening for console as well. Now they don't share console numbers, but once again, just use our imagination and deduction. we'll come to the conclusion that that's more than likely what's happening. And the thing is that my comment section is a pretty good indicator of the same thing. I'd say 3/4 of the comments that I get for most of these videos are people saying, oh, well, I stopped playing this game, but I still listen to you because I like to hear about what you have to say about it, or, you know, I just like to check in to kind of like see if the game is dead yet or whatever. And before I get into the video, I want to say too that I think that's something that I think is really interesting, right? Because I used to have this issue back when this was a Call of Duty channel. The majority of the comments that I used to get, which is weird because Call of Duty actually has millions upon millions of people that play it regularly. Right. So it's one of the top 3 games in the world all the time. Every year, it's one of the top 3 games sold. It's just one of those kind of like household name type of games like NBA 2K, Madden, all that kind of stuff. Those are games where they release every year, and even though they make very small, minute changes and stuff, they're just like household names. They've been established for decades now. Whereas Marvel Rivals, we're coming up on just the 3rd season. Like, what are we at? Like 6-7 months now that the game was released. I think it released like at the beginning of December or end November or something like that. I can't remember exactly when. Let me know in the comments when exactly it released. But nonetheless, though, we're like 6-7 months into the game, and the game is already struggling. And personally, I feel like there's some reasons why, right? So the first thing that I want to talk about is like content. And this game is a live service game. Those of you that don't know, live service games are just games that are 9 times out of 10, they're free to play. And they're more accessible to people, but the whole thing that they kind of bank off of and make money off of is, one, the amount of content that they pump out. And 2 is, I guess it could also be content, but their monetization, like skins and stuff like that, things that give you a reason to want to spend money on the game and keep people interested and stuff like that. Because I know there's a lot of people that are free to play players, but for a lot of us, when we play games like this, we don't mind spending money on cosmetics and stuff that we like and different things to keep the game new and fresh and interesting for us, right? But when you compare this to like other free-to-play games like Fortnite, Apex, Call of Duty, which I feel like Apex is a bad example simply because Apex, in my opinion, has always been terrible at pumping out like new content and like different fun things and stuff, especially like their battle passes and just skins in general. I feel like they were very slow on that, and it's always been weird to me because when you have a free-to-play game, that's like literally the only way that you make money. So I don't know what they think people are going to spend money on if they don't like the 2 or 3 skins that they release every month or whatever the case is. So, but yeah, like I said, when you compare this game to something like COD, the way that COD does their new seasons and stuff, right? They have multiple new maps that get released for multiplayer. They have Warzone, which is like kind of what has the most amount of players overall in comparison to like multiplayer and stuff. That's really what kind of brought COD back to life, was the battle royale and stuff. They used to have an extraction mode, DMZ, but then they swapped that out for zombies when Black Ops came around. So, you know, they usually have like that 3rd mode or whatever that also brings people in that is a bit more like casual, I'd say, versus like Warzone and the multiplayer and stuff, which is more competitive. I mean, it can be casual depending upon who the player base is, but nonetheless, though, overall, like they usually have kind of like that third mode, kind of like plunder, where it's just more for people to drop in, have fun, and level up weapons and all that kind of stuff. Now, that's the point that I was making. COD, they release new bundles all week, every week. Like they're popping out 5-6 bundles a week. You know, they have a lot of different things that they can kind of market to you as reasons why you'd want to get that. They have the loadouts that have like cool tracers and stuff. I mean, they got everything that you can possibly imagine. Some of it's really silly and more like Fortnite. They got the more serious military stuff, and they got everything in between. They have a lot of crossovers with different companies like Ninja Turtles or Terminator, etc. Then they also have like a plethora of like melee weapons and stuff like that. And then one of the biggest things for me was the finishing moves. Finishing moves are amazing because, you know, you have that ability to do the finishing moves and just really troll your enemy. And they just have so many different types, which can really incentivize you to want to buy a bundle. Even if you don't necessarily like the skin, you can get it just for the finishing move because it can be equipped to anything. So I know people are like, well, why are you talking about Call of Duty? Well, it's because it's not so much about the type of game. It's just more overall like the mindset behind it and why people want to keep coming back and why they're interested in stuff like that. With Marvel Rivals, you're only getting one character per half of a season. So if you don't like that character, if it's not in a role that you like or whatever the case is, what else are you left with? Okay, you get a new map once every half of a season. And there's nothing else really changes. And then I feel like what they have to do is to make things interesting is they purposely switch around characters. They're nerfing stuff here, then they're buffing this, then now they're doing like complete reworks on characters and stuff, which is making some people want to play it, but then it's driving other people away and stuff. And I don't really know how I feel about that because there's some things I don't really mind. Like a lot of people are like, well, Thor is unplayable now. Brother, I'm still using Thor and having absolutely zero issues. The only thing that's really a problem with using not only Thor, but really anybody is going up against kind of like Emma. She's kind of broken as a tank. If somebody's really good with Emma and knows how to use Emma, she makes you play completely different because you can't get close. The moment you hear her hit diamond form, you have to back up. And if you're somebody who is a brawler tank, a more close range tank, you can't, what are you really going to do against that, right? So, outside of like Magneto and Penny and stuff, or even like Strange or something, any of the other brawler tanks, Hulk, Captain America, Thor, et cetera, they're just kind of, it makes it not very fun. So I do think that they need to start implementing. I know some people too that might say, well, we get these game modes and stuff. Let's be honest here. The Ultron game mode, I just could not get into that. I played one game of that. It took literally like 30, 40 minutes. Very few like explanations or anything. I had to watch like a whole video on it. Even then, I fell asleep watching the video explaining it. For people who like that auto chess kind of thing, where you just kind of sit back and you can listen to a podcast or whatever, and I feel like you can do all types of stuff while it's playing. You really just press some buttons and move some stuff around. But like I said, most people like in our Discord and stuff were complaining that just to get this emote, which I really didn't understand why people even cared about that emote. It was really just like a thumbs up or something, like a little Ultron head emoji or whatever for an emote. I feel like we've gotten way better ones in the little mini battle passes that we've gotten. And even with those, they're really irritating to me because those are the only time that I've seen battle passes where like you can only unlock one level per day. And I get why they do that, because they want you to keep logging in every day so they can say that their numbers are up instead of people loading in and just playing for like a day straight or however long and unlocking everything in it. But in my opinion, once I pay for something, do not tell me when and how long I have to play something to unlock stuff in it. In regards to like me being able to only play it one day, I don't care if it's like I have to get a certain amount of XP or whatever the case is. Another thing, we really need like XP tokens in this game. Like, I feel like every other game has some form of like XP tokens. Maybe it's just me like coming from COD, but XP tokens are nice, especially like when you're just trying to like level up something or finish something out or whatever, and you're like, okay, well, I've stacked up these XP tokens. Let me go ahead and pop some of these so I can go ahead and get it done. I feel like that's something we desperately need in the game. But nonetheless, though, like I was saying, there's a lot of stuff that just kind of needs to be thought about in regards to content and how it's put out to keep people more interested. I mean, if you're somebody like me and you enjoy doing the rank grind, that's going to keep you coming back. But at the end of the day, though, you have one of the best IPs ever for this kind of game. You have access to the Marvel IP. And I know people, they sit back and they say, oh, well, this isn't Fortnite. Or they're not going to be popping out skins every day. Brother, anytime you're playing a live service game, it's going to be like Fortnite was the blueprint for that in regards to just popping out skins all the time and creating a bunch of skins. They don't even have their game isn't the access to the Marvel IP. They just have they get rights a lot of times to not only Marvel but a lot of other things. And you go into Fortnite right now, you can find any variant of anything that you want to find in regards to Marvel and DC or any other pretty much IP that's ever existed that's been in pop culture. For every character that we have in Marvel Rivals, they have a skin for that in Fortnite, and they have 8-9 different variations of that skin that are all really, really good. And their designs for stuff are usually a lot more comic book accurate, if not literally the exact rip of the comic book skin. That I could go on about for a long time, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and switch it on over to one of the biggest things that I've noticed this season that's kind of been irritating me. Jeff really didn't get used like that. He really wasn't. Now, I don't know if that's something that was in more casual lobbies and stuff, if that was something that was being used. But me personally, once you get out of pretty much gold and up, you were not seeing people use Jeff. Jeff was looked at as kind of a throw pick unless you were just absolutely goated. Now, are there some goated Jeff players out there? Yes, but the average support player was not using Jeff, and even definitely higher elos and stuff. People were not using Jeff, middle elos, higher elos, whatever. So it just wasn't something that you were seeing. And then because they reworked them, and I don't know if it's just because it was just something that was new, so people were like, you know what, let's start using Jeff now. I don't know, but it's kind of irritating when you have people that are picking Jeff on the team. Now let's talk about Ultron, right? A lot of people go on this Jeff Ultron comp or whatever. And it's really been irritating me. And I just got to be honest with you guys. I know there's a lot of people that are going to disagree, and be honest with you, I don't care. I'm still going to be honest with you guys. It's really irritating me because 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose when you're going up against support players that actually have healing ults and do more consistent healing. And what's really irritating is that both of these characters are what I call MVP generators, or most of the time SVP generators. And they give people this illusion that they're overall better than other healers, which in my opinion, they're not. So for example, with Ultron, a lot of people just throw the drone on a tank or something and they dip out and they start trying to DPS the whole time. They're sitting here, you hear the sound of them barely clipping somebody with their little laser or whatever, and just not really doing a lot. They get their ult and they have the option to heal people or delete people. And what do we all see most times? Most people that are playing Ultron are sitting out here just trying as hard as they can to delete people instead of healing their teammates and stuff. And then you're going up against people like Rocket, Luna Snow, Cloak and Dagger, right? These people that have ults that either do more damage and they heal people, or they're doing damage to the enemy while simultaneously healing, right? Luna's eternity long ult, you know what I'm saying, which just feels like it takes forever. And yeah, you can counter those with a good Magneto player, but honestly, how often are you getting those on your team, right? That's more of a luck of the draw type of deal. And like I said, it's been kind of irritating because I get it. There's a new character. Then you got Jeff. He got a lot of stuff reworked and everything, or his whole kit was completely reworked. So people were like, yeah, I want to play these characters. They're new. I can enjoy them now, whatever. And the thing is that they just don't do that well in team comps most of the time. It's really irritating because to me, they're more characters that you would play on top of constant support. So for example, the way Adam Warlock has usually worked, let's say you have a Cloak and Dagger and a Luna, or a Rocket and a Luna, or whatever, right? And then you want to go and you want to pick an Adam Warlock. Well, that becomes a deadly combination right there, because more than likely the enemy team is going to have that constant healing and you're having that constant healing. But then when you have, Adam Warlock, then when everybody thinks oh, I finally got this tank that I've been working on for half the game, one shot, boom, bro just has half of his health back again, right? Somebody goes to ult and it's yo, he's evenly dispersing out damage and stuff like that to people. It seems like nobody ever wants to die. And then you try to dive him and he just keeps healing himself. It gets very irritating very quickly, right? But in regards to having just like a normal healer and then, or a more constant healer, and then you have Adam Warlock or you have Ultron or Jeff or whatever, it starts to get irritating, and not saying that these characters don't serve their purpose or that they're bad characters. It's just that, like, I feel like people are picking them because there's not many other options, and they've already gotten bored with like the other 8 healers that we have currently or something like that, in comparison to how you have this plethora of DPS. And it's the same exact thing with tanks. There's only so many of them to choose from, and maybe that's by design. I don't know what goes on in their minds when they're doing all this or the balancing and stuff, but that's just something that's been irritating to me. Another thing I want to talk about too, and a lot of this stuff is stuff that I'm pulling from comments. I mean, you can go to like my last video, or I think it was the video before last. I can't remember. It was one wherever I was talking about like, whatever like one of the biggest problems are with Marvel Rivals and stuff. And a lot of these are just comments that I'm literally just sitting here with my phone out, just reading from. And some of them I agree with, some of them I don't agree with. Like, for example, the next one is what people are calling the flyer meta. Now, this is something that I've heard so many people talking about. They keep saying, oh, there's a flying meta. There's a flying meta. Now, my personal definition of meta is when something like, let's take Call of Duty, for example. Once again, I'm just going to use it as an example. Call of Duty, the reason why you have metas is because there's certain loadouts that do more damage, literally do more damage at pretty much any range, whether it be close, medium, whatever, than other loadouts. So for example, let's say that the AK gets a buff and the AK literally does like 54 damage a shot. And then they nerf the recoil. So it has low recoil, extremely high damage. And then you're like, well, I want to use like any of these other guns, but they only do like 30 damage a shot. They have extremely bad recoil. Like, you get what I'm saying here? Once you get into a 1v1, you're going to lose. And I can't even say a fair 1v1. There might be situations where you got the person half health and they turn around and just delete you like it's nothing. That's meta, right? That's like when it's extremely hard to beat someone against something else. And no matter what you really do, you're gonna run into that situation. Now, the problem with saying there is a flyer meta is that there are numerous characters in the game that are designed to take out flyers. The problem is that people don't want to use those characters. People become too attached to the character that they like, that they've spent a lot of time and energy into, or put a lot of time and energy into, and then they sit back and they say that there is a flyer meta. Now, that I cannot agree with. I have zero problem with flyers. Wanda exists. Hawkeye exists. Captain America, not Captain America, but Scarlet Witch. I'm sorry, not Scarlet Witch. I keep trying to say her name. Black Widow. There we go. Black Widow exists. Namor exists. Spider-Man even exists. There are just like numerous characters that you should have zero issue taking out flyers with. Punisher, Star-Lord. The list could go on and on and on about different people that shouldn't be an issue for you to take out flyers. But a lot of people, like I said, they just don't want to deal with that. They would rather just look straight ahead and just keep throwing damage out into the crowd and just hoping that someone's a health bar eventually goes down. And that's just more of a community issue because, like I said, I don't care. When I see flyers, they're just like anyone else to me. If anything, I feel like most of the time it's easier to target them because usually their support players are kind of the same way, where they just are like, what is it called, vertically challenged, where it's like they just don't want to look up. So a lot of times, like, you can just like fly over to them or do whatever, hit them with a couple squids with Namor or something, and it's like they're just gonna get out of there. They're gonna go down. Even with Punisher getting a buff this season, to where now it feels like he already was shredding flyers, but now it's like, brother, I got an extra 10 rounds, so I can miss a couple of shots. There's less spread on those shots, so it feels like it's just way easier to beam people like a laser. So there's different stuff like that, but a lot of stuff or another thing that people have been talking about too has been the balance changes, and just kind of like overall the fact that there's not a lot of like balancing going on in the game, that you have certain characters that just kind of, they feel like dominate, and that it makes using other characters kind of pointless. And I think that is just kind of something that's going to naturally happen every season, because you have to understand, if we just constantly had the same characters being meta all the time, or just what a lot of people consider to be meta in this game, which is just when you'd have to switch to another character to counter that character, it would just get boring, right? Like, just imagine if the game came out and like there was this handful of characters that were just really strong and really hard to play against, and they never did anything to characters that people don't really pick like that. What's the point of them even being in the game if they don't really have any real utility or purpose. And I know that, like you said, like I've said before, there are people who can make a lot of these characters good because they're just so good at the game that they can really just fully utilize every character's kit and figure out how to be sneaky with them and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't hurt to kind of buff and nerf different characters sometimes. You shouldn't be nerfing them to the point where they become useless, but it should be a situation where, like, oh, people haven't been playing Black Widow. Let's buff her shot a little bit. Let's give her, a little bit more ammo. Not saying that they haven't done these things. I'm just saying, like, as an example, right? Let's maybe cut the cooldown on her grapple or whatever the case is, or roundhouse. Give her a longer running speed, something like that. And I'm talking about that like for like any character that is really not getting utilized like that. And then you switch it back. And like I said, I know there's people out there who they don't like when that happens. They're like, I want every character to stay the same. There's a lot of people that just do not like change. Once they learn something or they know something, they really don't like having to adapt and figure it out another way or whatever the case is. So those are just kind of like some of my thoughts and opinions on season 2. And hopefully coming into season 3, they can fix this. I mean, they've already said they're going to cut down on the amount of time that it takes for us to get characters and stuff. But I think that it's still just kind of like with this game, or this type of game, there is no real like perfect solution, because most people would say that the game was probably at its best when we were getting like 2 new characters every half of a season. But just realistically, I don't think that that's probably going to work out in the long run, and I think too that a lot of it is just like what characters we're choosing to put into the game. There's a lot of people who are like, I bring my favorite character into the game, but their kits are already made and they already kind of have like their designation as far as like what role they are. Kind of like Ultron. I don't feel like we really needed Ultron, Yeah, a lot of people were like, well, I want to see Ultron. Where is he? They've already leaked this or blah, blah, blah. And now I'm just excited for it. And I'm like a little kid on Christmas who can't wait to get this toy. But then I get the toy and it really wasn't, it seemed really cool in the commercial. But then when you get it, it's not nearly as cool. But that was the whole point of the commercial, was to make you want to get it, right? That's the whole reason it existed. So those are just my personal thoughts and opinions on it. But let me know in the comments, though, what you all think. And another thing, too, that I want to add in as well is, for those of you that made it to the end of the video, working on the EOMM video right now. I know that's like after literally every video, that's all anyone talks. Well, everything would be perfect if they just fixed EOMM. and I don't necessarily disagree that that's a problem. But at the same time, I don't think that once it's eliminated, that's going to overall fix the game. I think there's more issues and problems and things that are stopping people from wanting to play the game the way that they did when it first came out. And it's not just things that I named in this video. These are just some of the things that I haven't necessarily talked about before, or maybe I have, but I wanted to like kind of expound upon them. Like I said, this conversation isn't anything new. Ever since people found out about skill-based matchmaking and stuff in other video games, I'm referring to other games. A lot of people say, oh, well, you're talking about skill-based matchmaking, and that and EOM are 2 different things. I'm fully aware that they're 2 different things. I've been covering this stuff for half a decade now, fully aware what the difference is. What I'm saying is that whenever there's some type of manipulation going on with matchmaking, people always think, well, if they take away that type of matchmaking, then the game will just be perfect. We'll love everything about it. 9 times out of 10, though, like I've said before, that matchmaking is there to protect like the 95%, and the 95% are the casual base. A lot of people don't realize it, but they're casual players. You're being protected in some way, shape, or form. It was literally designed to help you and to keep your retention there. So like I said, that's just one thing, but I am working on that video right now. I'm should be, by the time this video is uploaded, I should be done leveling up my alt account, and I should be able to just go into ranked and see what's going on to be able to compare, because I've already done console rank and breezed through that without any issues. Now I want to see if I have the same exact thing happen on PC, or if it's a similar experience and that doesn't make any difference, if it's just the player, or if there really is a way to manipulate the matchmaking through making alt accounts or whatever the case is. I just kind of wanted to have all that information prior to making another video about it, so that I had something new to talk about instead of just ranting and having the same rant that I've had a million times and stuff. So like I said, that will be the next video that I have uploaded. I'm going to try to go ahead and get a couple of other videos ready for you all. I actually have to go to the beach. Say have to, like it's a chore. It's a well-needed and deserved vacation. What is it? Saturday. So yeah, Saturday I'll be leaving out to head to the beach, and I won't be back for like 4 or 5 days. So I'm going to try to get some content out for you guys ahead of time to get that ready. But like I said, though, let me know in the comments what you all think. What do you want to see in season 3? What do you think they should do? What do you think they should undo? What are your gripes with the game, thoughts and opinions? Just whatever you got, put them in the comment section. I might end up putting it in another future video that I do regarding this and talking about different things. So, but yeah, that's all I have for this video. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. But I do appreciate you all for listening. And I'm Father Dark. I'll catch you on the next one.